Yesterday's Fallout 76 update ended up being a pretty controversial one. Although it brought some pretty good overt changes, especially with the Battle Royale mode, it also introduced a new pretty massive bug into the game, breaking several widely used legendary effects on armors, which in effect broke certain character builds quite fundamentally. As of right now, there are no actual updates to share on that, although I imagine we'll hear something at least tomorrow. And although that without a doubt has taken the limelight, and rightly so, not so overtly, there have been some other hidden or secret changes also brought to Fallout 76. Unfortunately, these are actually quite positive, as what it seems like Bethesda has done is added in a secret or hidden quest that is a precursor to Fallout 76's upcoming Wastelanders DLC. And in effect, in this video, what I'm going to be doing is actually giving you a look pretty comprehensively at what exactly this is, as it is a bit of a scavenger hunt, but even further gives you access to a pretty cool new location, but also some cool and interesting lore and backstory, which will likely become increasingly relevant as we learn more about the Wastelanders itself. If you enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe, but also, speaking of Wastelanders and when we're going to hear more, last week in their weekly article, Bethesda described how starting on December 12th, so tomorrow, Fallout 76 would be getting a free trial. Nothing crazier out of the ordinary, but something they added with this that was somewhat curious is the fact that after that sentence, they said the trial will not include upcoming Wastelanders content, but you'll be able to access the full base game for the duration of the event. So now perhaps this is just to clear up some confusion or anybody coming onto this that doesn't typically follow the game, although not too many people that don't follow the game would probably read this weekly article, kind of dev notes series. But then the speculative side of me was like, what if tomorrow, during the Game Awards, Bethesda drops a new Wastelanders trailer, and at the end of it announces that there's currently a free trial for Fallout 76. And this note is just with that in mind to clear up any future confusion, because you see a trailer for one thing, but then you get to play a different thing. Super speculative, so who knows what's gonna happen, but I was sitting on that information, I just wanted to put it on a video. This felt like the fitting time. But either way, as far as this new secret quest goes for Fallout 76, it seems like this is a very deliberate and intentional move by Bethesda to start their tease of Wastelanders. I'm going to go pretty in depth on what exactly you have to do during this process, but just as a brief overview, now in-game, to start off this new quest, there's going to be a new in-game location with the Grafton Pawnshop. This is just an unmarked location in Grafton. Within the pawnshop, you could find just a lot of miscellaneous things. It has a clearly destroyed and distraught interior, much like many others you could find all throughout Fallout games, although if you make your way onto the second story, you enter into this area, which is without a doubt the most interesting, and the one you're going to be spending the most time in. So with this new quest, it's one of those quests that isn't actually a quest. There's no quest added to your Pip-Boy or anything like that, but rather there is a mystery and you have to undergo a scavenger hunt, which does have rewards at the end. And there are really two separate sides of this, one involving this board and one involving this board. But to kick off either one, you're going to want to go back to the original door where you entered, as right at the edge of this door, you're going to be able to find 3 notes that you can pick up. The first of which is a concerned letter about the shop's owner, that named Flavia. I'm definitely butchering that pronunciation. This being from a concerned party that is curious as to what happened to the shop's owner. You can also find an eviction notice sitting next to this, which does seem to indicate they've been gone for a pretty long time, and then a message from somebody named 999 that describes having the switch being automated but having to skip town. And separately, the other notable thing here is if you go downstairs, there's actually a black light that does reveal several very interesting words on the wall. And taking this all together, these are the clues you have on your now scavenger hunt. These words are going to act as the clues as far as certain locations you'll have to go to piece together a map that will go on this wall. So I think anything further would be a spoiler. This is how you can get kickstarted on this whole journey. I encourage at least some of you to try this out, especially the keywords, trying to figure out where exactly like Halo is in game. But be warned, it is extremely difficult. These are not easy things to find, and you'll probably quit out of frustration and just reference this guide again. Although before we specifically talk about how to do this or how to uncover the secrets, I think it is interesting to talk about this on a broader level. The fact that Bethesda just added a pre-Wastelanders quest into Fallout 76. They've done something similar in the past, adding in these mysterious orange boxes into Appalachia with one update. This was done on May 10th as a teaser for the upcoming Nuclear Winter Battle Royale mode that released 1 month later on June 10th. Does this mean I think Bethesda is going to release Wastelanders on January 10th? No, but the fact that we got this teaser quest before Bethesda's holiday break, before 2020, does make me hopeful that Bethesda will actually release all of this on the earlier side of 2020. As of right now, all they said is Q1. I still think a February release is most likely. So now for the more spoilery or guide part of this video, what you're going to have to do is match up all of these corresponding words that you can see from the blacklight with certain in-game locations that would seemingly match that. Gasman will take you to the Red Rocket Mega Shop because it's a giant gas station. Once going there, on top of the counter of the first Red Rocket you can encounter, you will find a little map fragment intended for Barry. After picking this up, a little message will appear on screen saying inside this package is an unmarked map fragment. It has a small note attached. Urgent, Barry, take this to my shop. Find all the pieces, FS. FS, as you'll see all throughout this, seems to indicate Flavia, the missing pawn shop owner. From there, you can take that back to the pawn shop, where now you'll find you'll have a new option on the map board to actually pin this to the board. With the black light on, you can see there is a corresponding number on this map fragment. And from there, it's fairly self-explanatory. You have to read these words and figure out the in-game map locations, and then get all the pieces to this map, which will tell you where to go. So just for the sake of time and convenience, in the background, I'm going to just be playing the clips of where exactly you find these, as well as their in-game location. Every single time, they're going to come in the same little packaging envelope thing. Sometimes it actually is pretty hard to find, especially as some of the areas are quite dark. And the on-screen message for all of these is exactly the same, except for which name is shown with it. So doing this all will probably take a while. Even just to fast travel around or get to all of these locations took me quite a bit, even though I know the larger location they were in. But once you finally do have all 6 map pieces, you can go back and get the very satisfying moment where you place them all on the board, where you will have a 6-digit code as well as a map with an X on it. I'm sure most of you could figure out what to do here, but if it wasn't obvious, the X is where you have to go and you'll have to use the code at that location. Surprise, surprise, the X was the formerly added in Vault 79 location. So you take that code, put it into the keypad. This was always here previously, just putting in zeros worked, but now you'll have to use your code. And now you can take the elevator down into the vault lobby itself. There's really not a ton going on here, a lot of miscellaneous things like junk or other items. You of course can see the vault door itself, which is pretty cool, as well as there's a few other locked away areas, but again, nothing super notable outside of one terminal that does describe a very secure and locked down vault. In one entry, it said that they actually have to wipe all of the external facing terminals every single day because they know what they're protecting. Anybody who enters into the area is meant to be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. It also seems like this whole thing is hidden. From the exterior, it obviously is pretty well hidden. It's not obvious at all this is a vault, but even here it is described how they're meant to stay out of sight and not even smoke outside or up top. The 2 other terminal entries are from the day the bombs dropped and basically just describe what they were doing that day and how they got the report that something was happening and they locked up. But as of right now, for this part in Vault 79 itself, that's it. There is no Vault 79 in-game currently. What you see here is actually everything. Several of you guys have reached out either with data mines or trying to glitch through the door, and it doesn't seem like that cell is loaded in Vault 76 yet. Outside of the Vault 79 entrance, there actually is a shallow grave. The skeleton in this is clickable, where it will read, the skeleton structure looks to be that of a female. There also appears to be a large fracture at the base of the skull, which is surrounded by gunpowder residue. To me, this heavily implies this is Flavia, especially when you take it into account with the earlier note. Her friend describes Flavia telling her she's going to be away for a while, having a farewell dinner, and something didn't feel right during all of that. So seemingly she went to the vault and this is where she ended up. Although, as an aside from just the lore aspect of all of this, there is something else pretty interesting going on here, and that is the Grafton Pawnshop. Something you may notice is if you try and enter the Grafton Pawnshop and you're in a team, you will not be able to. The reason behind this is the Grafton Pawnshop is one of the first instance locations we're getting in Fallout 76's adventure mode. We of course saw the instancing tech with the vault raids, but those were a little different. This is the first just typical location that you can go in and out of pretty freely. And that is the reason you could actually have all of these things pop up on the wall and only you will be able to see it. But also you'll never see anybody else running around in this location with you. It'll just be you. But also something pretty interesting to do with this, that code that you use to unlock the vault door is unique to you. Like the code you see me using and tracking in the background is my code. You should hypothetically have a different code. Separately, there's also some, I guess, unexpected byproducts of that. So you could endlessly loot the Grafton Pawnshop if you wanted to. The junk in here will just keep respawning if you go outside and wait 30 seconds, then come back in. But either way, as I mentioned before, this is only the first part of this, and if you look around the room, you can see another empty board. This is the second part of this quest. It seems like Flavia knew she was going to die or people are hunting her. So, in a last-ditch effort to get this story out there, the story we're going to talk about in a moment, she sent out little packages that look very similar to the packages you were just picking up to many prominent or notable figures all throughout Appalachia. Several people you interact with the main story of Fallout 76. In the background, I'm going to be showing you the location of each of these. As you pick up a package, you will get a couple of things, a note intended for that person, why they were picked by Flavia, but then also a few pieces of evidence that, when you tie it all together, gives you a broader story. For these, I have no idea how Bethesda would think people could find them. I found them thanks to data mining. I know that with the other ones, you had little clues or hints that would lead you in certain directions. With this one, if you actually tried to do this legitimately, you would be here for probably not even a day, but several days searching. But once you do finally find each and every one of these and get all of the information, you can post it on this board also, which it will fill out pretty nicely. In reality, many of you will probably start reading some of it as you go. But in effect, what the larger or deeper part of the story is that Flavia found out something around the treasure of Appalachia. It described how this was kind of a rumor or some kind of mystery in Appalachia at the time. And what we have in the background is a collection of evidence and an explanation as far as the government's involvement goes and why she has concluded the secret is real. Going in the order of the categories listed on this board, the first person she sends a package to is Blackwell. Senator Blackwell was actually a member of the Free States. He's a big part of the main quest of Fallout 4. It's actually how you gain access to the Enclave, which is pretty cool. I like how Bethesda is tying back into some of those existing characters, not just letting them waste away or making new ones. She signs a letter to him as a vigilant citizen. As with all of them, it's kind of her code name for these letters to not reveal her true identity. And to Blackwell, she sends these very curious invoices, this being for massive quantities of concrete going to some kind of government project, although it's not clear what this government project was. Then she reaches out to Quinn Carter, the editor at the Charleston Herald. Here she shows evidence from a way station, basically trucks have to go over these after passing over certain roads, where she found massively overweight trucks that were getting out of the fines associated with being overweight, somehow being overridden by a government official. Next is the package to Calvin Van Lowe. This is actually one of the DLC characters, the one you're tracking down in the Sheepsquatch questline. So again, really cool to see them making a return. Here, what's being discussed are suspicious deaths. One person working for a construction company that spontaneously quit and got a different job where he was away for long periods and having a lot more money. Somebody who was at a way station and a truck accidentally drove into the way station. And finally, somebody that was just recently interviewed. All three parties seeming to have some kind of connection and all three dying very suspiciously. Then we get the first new character in the mix, that was Lee De Silva, who now is located at the Silva household. With this package, you actually get an auditory interview, this being done with somebody who noticed something suspicious happening on their farm.
So those soldiers, they drove onto my land and started fencing off the north part of my farm, that there were dangerous levels of radiation over there. And he gives me this check with more zeros in it than I've ever seen.
So to recap, it seems like the farm was purchased by the government, and reportedly a ton of radiation was discovered by them in the area, although no radiation was ever actually detected by anybody else. And then following this, there was heavy government presence as well as several large trucks passing through. Last but not least, we encounter Sheriff Darcy, and this is where things probably get the most interesting and tie all together. In this, there are several reports about somebody named Shanghai Sally. This was reportedly somebody who robbed some of the casinos in Las Vegas, or New Vegas in Fallout 4, and we actually do get a mention of some of those West Coast casinos, which is pretty cool. But then there was a giant manhunt to find that person, and the government eventually caught up. But despite this, several people in the area of Appalachia actually seem to recognize this Shanghai Sally as someone totally different, named Catherine Montgomery, who reportedly lived in this area, although no official records are available. And several of the other people who are now deceased as a result of this actually match descriptions of soldiers. And here it is all tied together, speculating that Catherine Montgomery was Shanghai Sally, and no, she didn't rob somebody. They somehow came into $20 million, then the government used any means possible to silence them. and that $20 million now seems to be the treasure of Appalachia. So tying this all together, what it seems to implicate was that Vault 79 was the home of a massive treasure. Vault 79 will seemingly be a main point in the Wastelanders DLC, and for one reason or another, the government was hiding the location of this treasure. Maybe just because it was valuable, or maybe because there was a deeper, darker side to it. Perhaps Catherine Montgomery actually found part of this or stole some of it from the government and then went to Vegas with that. Maybe she did actually do something malicious, but overall it seems like there's a pretty big cover-up going on here. One final thing that does add a bit of context to all of this, if you remember that original note from 999, something to do with a switch of some sort, well, after reading that, if you go to the Clarksburg post office, you could actually find a new entry, one describing how a bunch of messages were sent out, seeming to refer to all of the things we just talked about. So overall, I think this is pretty cool. I think it's a really cool thing for Bethesda to do. It is a nice mystery to add to the game for your players to try and figure out, and hopefully successfully, but it gives us a look at what Fallout 76's Wastelanders DLC will seemingly be about, as there will be a treasure, it'll be heavily focused on Vault 79, and likely a government presence. As I mentioned in the past, a Secret Service power armor was data mined, a bunch of notes mentioning government figures, and then a Secret Service power armor being shown in a trailer. It seems like this will be connected somehow. Either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this long video. Hopefully over the coming weeks or months, we'll get more information that will give us more context on this massive DLC. But until then, as always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.